What is going on, everybody? Hello and welcome. My name is Tyler Shepherdson, and this is On the Pipe podcast. Today is Monday, August the 15th, 2022, years after zero, and we're trying something new. We're trying something different. We're right here live on YouTube coming at you. So we had everything set up days ago. This was going to be a weekend review with Stu. It is now 11:30 p.m. on a Monday night, and you can see that it is weekend review without Stu. So the show must go on. And once again, so if you're joining us this week, I want to go ahead and let you know last week was probably the worst show that I've ever put out. So if you listen to that one, you are a true OTP fan, and I truly thank you for listening to that one. But after that one last week, it only gives room to get better from here. I'm just ready to go back to racing. I'm ready for our racing to come back. I'm ready to get back in the mix and have all this stuff going once again. So it's a little bit tough to talk about other stuff going outside of our normal racing stuff. But hopefully we'll have that on the horizon very, very, very soon. I think we're like 3 or 4 weeks away. The ISDE is coming up, so we always try to cover that each year, so that'll be fun to cover as well. But this past weekend, I went to the TKO Enduro. It was kind of part of my whole round the country road trip. So I ended up putting almost 2,500 miles in the past 11 days. So it was a really cool experience. Actually, that show last week that we were talking about, that one was actually recorded live in a car driving through traffic in downtown Chicago. So that is part of why it was the worst episode ever. My mind was jumbled. My brain was fried as I was trying to navigate rush hour traffic through Chicago. But it was because I hadn't brought you guys a show, and I wanted to get one out there. I wanted to check in with you guys. I wanted to let you know what was going on. That being said, we did talk a lot about silly season stuff last week, and in talking about silly season stuff, I actually learned some of the stuff was true, some of the stuff was not all the way there, and some of the stuff is completely different than what we were hearing. So we're going to talk about that here in just a couple of minutes, and then we're also going to discuss the TKO Enduro that happened this past weekend at the Trials Training Center down in Tennessee. That is a race that I've always wanted to go to, and it was a race that I finally got the chance to go to this year. Mainly, if you want to be completely honest with you, what had happened is I went to Chicago, and then I went to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I watched the Green Bay Packers practice. I got to see Aaron Rodgers. He was right in front of me. It was really cool. I get a lot of hate for liking football. I don't know what's so wrong with liking football. You know what I mean? Like, you can like dirt bikes and you can like football at the same time. I promise. It's not against any law in any of the 50 states. I don't think it's against any laws in any other countries, even countries with weird laws. Even countries that you get locked up for 9 years if you have a vape pen cartridge. You know what I mean? You can still like dirt bikes and you can still like football in those countries as well. So I grew up a football fan. I got really big into football. And then once I got into dirt bikes, it kind of consumed my world, and it kind of took over from there. So then I lost touch with football for quite a few years. I would get on, and I've always been a Packers fan ever since I was little. So I've always liked the Green Bay Packers. I have a picture of me in a diaper and a Brett Favre jersey. And it's really as simple as I think it's because my favorite color was green when I was little. So no one else in my family likes the Packers, but I've been a tried and true Packers fan through thick and thin. And yeah, so I would log on and check out the scores. I didn't really make time to watch games. Most of the time I was at races anyway. But yeah, throughout that whole thing, especially racing on Sundays, it makes it tough to watch some football games. But that being said, I would log on and not log on. I would go and check the scores, but I kind of separated myself from it. And I know that I'm rambling, but this all comes back to a point. In the past couple years, like right before COVID started, literally right before COVID started, there's this guy named Pat McAfee. And I know a couple of people that listen to my show listen to Pat McAfee's show because they made the comments. And if you listen to Pat McAfee's show, you'll realize that a lot of stuff I say that might sound a little weird or out of place is actually stuff that comes from the Pat McAfee show. So I started listening to his show. He was a punter for the Indianapolis Colts. He was actually named punter of the decade. And then he retired early. He retired young. I think he was like 32 years old. And he retired from the NFL in the peak of his career to, at the time, he had to deal with Barstool Sports. So he was going into sports media. And he was also doing stand-up comedy. And every single person tried to stop him from turning down millions of dollars in the NFL and going out and doing this thing, saying that he was making the worst mistake of his life, blah, 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 blah. Well, turns out it worked out really well. He has like one of the most successful sports shows that there is, and everyone, like the whole sports world is watching it now. A lot of the NFL stuff that you see is stuff that comes from his show. Long story short, this is a very long-winded tangent. Shortly before COVID, I started seeing clips of his, and they were really funny. I would see stand-up clips. I would see clips from his show. I started watching that, and then that turned into me listening to his show every day. So he does like a 3 to 4 hour show 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday, they're doing a show, and it got to the point where Pat McAfee and his friends, that half of the guys, they grew up with him, and they've known each other for forever, and they've all been along for the ride. And there's a couple of them that they have hired, but they are so entertaining. The way that they talk about everything, the way that they bring stuff up, the way that they cover the sport, the way that they talk about football, they are so entertaining that I ended up watching the show every single day. So realistically, since November or December of 2019, I've listened to the Pat McAfee show 5 days a week. They do it live on YouTube. I don't even think they post it as a podcast. They do it live on YouTube, and they're on a Sirius satellite radio channel. But I listen to it every single day, and I got hooked just because they were so entertaining. Right when COVID started and all sports shut down, that is when there was no sports. Everything was canceled. You couldn't go to sports. There was no sports going on, and they still took a sports show and made it interesting through COVID when there was no sports. And then the AFL, the Australian Football League, Aussie rules football, it was one of the first things back, and they started playing it overseas. And so since there was no sports over here to cover, they started covering Aussie rules football, and they did it in a way that was so entertaining that you had never heard of the AFL, you've never watched Aussie rules football, and they talked about it in a way that made it entertaining, and it actually made me follow along, and now I follow along with Aussie rules football. But long story short, well, I guess long story long at this point, that whole thing to say that over the past 2 years, 2.5 years, however long it's been, almost 3 years, coming up on 3 years, that I've been listening to the Pat McAfee show, it has got me full-blown obsessed with the NFL again. And actually the idea for Weekend Review with Stu actually came from the Pat McAfee show. Like I said, I've always been a Green Bay Packers fan. Obviously, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers is Aaron Rodgers. And in 2020, actually, they started doing this thing called Aaron Rodgers Tuesday, where Aaron Rodgers would come on the show each and every single Tuesday and talk about the game, talk about what was going on. When he tested positive for COVID, had the whole vaccination thing that went huge everywhere, he came on and did like an hour-long talk about that. Both years been knocked out of the playoffs. The first year by the Bucs and Tom Brady when they went on to win the Super Bowl, he still came on the Tuesday after that game. This past year, we got knocked out in the second round, and he came on, talked about it after that game. But seeing that side, and because Aaron Rodgers had never done media or anything to that point, so seeing that side of him open up this whole new door, this whole new thing to a whole new group of people. And so when we were talking right before this season started, Stu and I were discussing some other things. We were really talking about the money. We were talking about agents, the need for an agent to get more money into the sport, and just all around politics of the sport. And then it came up, hey, Pat McAfee does this show. He has Aaron Rodgers on every week. It's cool to hear from the top guy in the sport on a weekly basis about what's going on. Would you like to do that? And that's how the weekend review with Stu actually started. Unfortunately, we only got 3 races with him, and then he ended up breaking his neck. So then the rest of them were kind of on an outside looking in perspective because he wasn't out there racing. He wasn't on the front row because he was dealing with that injury. But it has still been a really cool thing over the course of this season, and I'm super grateful that Stu has lended his time to us to do that. But all of that to say this, part of the reason I went on this whole excursion was I'm up to something. And really need to figure out what is going on with Up to Something season. There is a lot that goes into it. And I kind of wanted some time away outside of the norm, outside of the comfort zone to talk about it, to discuss it, or not discuss it, but really just think about it. Think about the pros, think about the cons, weigh my options, and kind of get away and just focus on what the future may hold and how up to something that we really are. But in doing so, I went to stay with a friend in Chicago. So stayed there for a few days and then went up to Green Bay, got to see Lambeau Field, got to walk my dog Reba around Lambeau Field, got to go to training camp practice the following day, and then went on a tour around the facility, around Lambeau Field. I actually got to walk on Lambeau Field, the historic Lambeau Field. So it was really cool, especially, like I said, listening to that show and talking to Aaron Rodgers and hearing all the other people come on. It's almost like you feel like you know more about the situation or know more about the people and kind of relate to them on a farther scale. So that's why I think it was cool to go up there and go to that. And I know a lot of people right now are wanting to skip ahead and they're wondering why I'm 12 minutes in and still talking about football, but it was just it was a really cool thing for me, and I think I needed it. And I think if there's something that you've been wanting to do, I think you should go do it as well. But no, it was cool just to be able to be there, put my eyes on it, see how it happens. All the Packers players, so all the local kids, they come out with their bicycles and they wait outside the locker room. And then for training camp, the Packers players come out and pick a kid and pick their bicycle, and then they actually ride the kid's bicycle over to the practice field while the kid usually carries their helmet and stuff like that. So I've seen all this stuff for years and years and years. I've been a Packers fan my whole life, and then to go up there and see it in person, it was really cool. So went from Chicago to Green Bay, went back to Chicago for the night, drove down to Indianapolis, watched the Indianapolis Colts practice. Matt Ryan, the Atlanta quarterback, just went to the Colts, so I just wanted to check in and see how he was doing, see that in person, and it was a pretty cool experience as well. And then went from there down to Nashville for the Red Bull TKO Straight Rhythm Enduro that was going on Broadway Street in Nashville. I don't know why they didn't call it the Battle on Broadway. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think Battle on Broadway would have been a good name for it. But nevertheless, that's where I headed. So from Chicago, my plan was to make this a real journey and go out west, go to Colorado, go to Salt Lake City, go to Yellowstone National Park, go see Mount Rushmore, and then basically work my way over to California, drive all the way down the Pacific Coast Highway. I had this whole thing planned. I thought it was going to be pretty cool. Let me see what's going on here. Oh, I thought it was about to end me for a second. This is my first time going live in the way that I'm doing it, so appreciate you bearing with me through the growing pains. But anyway, so that was my plan, to go out west and to go do that whole thing and really figure out what Up to Something season is about. But then I completely forgot and didn't realize that the Mid-East Hare Scramble starts back up this coming weekend, and I'm announcing the rest of the season. So that was something cool that kind of been sitting on and waiting for the right time to announce that. But now's the time because, like I said, I forgot that they were going back racing this weekend. And so that is why from Green Bay, from Chicago, from Indianapolis, I went straight down to Nashville, mainly just to kind of keep the trip going a little bit. And like I said, TKO is a race that I've always wanted to go to. It is an FIM World Championship and an AMA National Championship, so it was cool. Plus the thing in Nashville. Never seen that before. That's the first time it's happened. Don't know when it's going to happen again. And I wanted to see it. I wanted to lay eyes on it, and so that's exactly what I did. So we're going to talk about TKO. We're going to talk about the Nashville stuff. But first, got to let you guys know, Beta Motorcycles is the official manufacturer of On the Pipe podcast. Beta Motorcycles has been family-owned and operated since 1905. They manufacture the finest enduro, trials, dual sport motorcycles that are known for their premium quality and rideability. Beta Motorcycles are the best-looking bike on the market, and they back it up with their superior performance. Head over to betausa.com for more information on their available models or to find a dealer near you to get yours today. Beta was a giant part of this weekend. The boys were so nice to me, so accommodating to me, especially being at a hard enduro. You think off-road is already such a small, tight-knit group, and then you go to hard enduro, and it is a even more niche, even smaller, but even more tight-knit group. It was really cool. I was like a fish out of water, though. I was walking through the pits and don't even know a lot of the pro riders, let alone all the amateur riders. And pro riders and amateur riders, they're all a different breed. To see the people's bikes and the setups and stuff that they had was pretty crazy. The way that the pros interacted with everyone. I mean, those guys are like superstars. I actually went and started looking at it. These guys have like 200,000, 250,000, 300,000 followers. Red Bull goes and cover these events. They're on Red Bull TV. They get all of this exposure. It's so popular. We were at the Trials Training Center in the middle of Tennessee. I don't know how you measure humidity, but it had all of it. It's down in a valley. There's absolutely no wind, so it's super hot, super humid, no breeze, no wind, and there's just a ton of people that have all gathered to watch this race. The majority of the riders are not from this country. They came in, and so I know there's been some discrepancies with world championships here lately, but this wasn't a world championship with a few people from the same country. This was a legit world championship. Everyone was from all over the world. All the fans came in masses. They were all speaking Spanish. They were all speaking German. It was crazy. Literally, the woods are just filled with people. The pits just filled with people from all over the place. And it was just a really cool experience. But that being said, my buddy Brandon Peterson and Andy, they were there racing, and then they had some friends that I guess have raced it with them in the past few years. But outside of them, I knew nobody else. And so Brandon and Andy, we went to dinner together. We hung out together. They were there to help out as well, and they both raced the race as well. But then the Beta boys kind of took me under their wing, fed me, and it was a really cool experience. So I'm pumped to be working with Beta Motorcycles because, not to repeat myself, but not only are they the best looking bikes on the market, not only are they some of the best riding bikes on the market, but it goes past the product. The product is good. The product stands alone. The product, you can get on it, you can see it, you can experience it. Another big part of it is the family that Beta has. They had some of their West Coast people here. There was a Beta Mexico rider there, a rider from Germany that was there, and then the Extreme Off-Road manager was there. Rich, got to meet him. That was it was just, it's cool to see how it all interacts and to see Beta USA as a whole, and then everything that they put into the sport, everything that they put into the riders, and everything that they put into building the brand. The other thing, and I kept talking about this all weekend, you go to a GNCC, you don't see very many Betas. You might see a few. You go to a National Enduro, a couple more Betas than you would see at a GNCC, but still not very many Betas. You go to a hard enduro race, there's Betas all over the place. I would be willing to bet that 2 or 3 out of every 5 bikes is a beta. You go to a hard enduro, those woods are red, and it was really cool to see. I've never been to a race and seen so many betas since I've been working with beta, so I thought that was a really cool thing too. That hard enduro, it's pretty clear that beta is one of the biggest weapons of choice for the people that are spending their hard-earned money on a motorcycle that they want for its rideability and premium quality. You can't beat those 2-stroke motors, so. Just a little interesting caveat about that. And another rant. What do you know? But this episode is also brought to you in part by Zach Tussle, a good buddy over at Raymond James Financial. Zach is a racer and a financial advisor that helps his clients win when it comes to retirement and financial planning. If you or someone you know wants to save and invest for their future or is already retired and needs advice for income during retirement, Zach Tussle is always my first recommendation. Find out more by Googling Zach Tussle or on their website at financialadvisorsdenvernc.com. Zach is a racer. Zach is a fast racer. Zach is an A-class racer, and he is also an A-class financial advisor. Once again, I said it last week. I think I've said it the few weeks before. Now is the time to invest. When you look at the stock market, you look at everything going on, a lot of people are scared. That's because they had a bunch of money in, and now it's at a dip. You want to buy the dip. You can get in at the dip. You can get in at the lowest part of everyone else's 401k, and then just watch yours grow. As theirs grows back to where it was, yours will be much higher than that because you're buying at the dip. To learn more about that and to really think about your financial future, contact Zach Tussle. He'll be more than happy to help you out. Let him know you're a listener of the show, and he'll hook you up. Make sure that you're dialed in. And make sure that you're fully understanding of what's going on and how he can help you. So financialadvisorsdenvernc.com or shoot him a message on any of the socials. Zach Tussle, you can find him. But yeah, so it was the hard enduro. It was the TKO Extreme Enduro. I wish that I could have been there to race. I wish I would have planned it better so I could have got home, got my bike, and then went out there, but I never made it home. I went straight there from my travels. So it was cool. You look at some of that stuff, and it doesn't even look like it's possible. I don't know how these guys do it. Tristan Hart was on a completely different level than every other human that was out on the track. He ended up getting the win. I think he won all 3 races, if I'm not mistaken. But he won the race that counts, or the one that matters the most for sure. That was the final one. Tristan Hart gets the win. Manny Lettenbichler gets in the second place spot. So those KTMs take the top 2 spots. And then Mario Roman will end up in the third place position. Wade Young ends up coming in fourth with Theodore Kabakachev in the number 5 spot. So those are your top 5 riders. In 6th place, your first American rider, it was Ryder LeBlond, followed by Alfredo Gomez, who won the Nashville Straight Rhythm. Alfredo did. Graham Jarvis, the man, the myth, the legend, he ended up in 8th place on the day. And Cody Webb rode his bike 6 times, coming off of an injury before he came back out to the TKO. He looked very strong early on, and he ended up finishing 9th place in the final knockout. And then David Cyprian will round out the top 10 riders. Also, Jordan Ashburn was there. Jordan Ashburn put on a very positive showing, and I will say it was kind of one of those conundrums, not conundrums, but there was multiple people, there was multiple chatter throughout the racetrack about why Jordan would be there. We know Jordan is a very talented rider. We know Jordan is a very talented hard enduro rider. We know that him going to the Magnum One Motorsports team and riding a Husqvarna was a benefit to him because he could get on the 2 strokes again and go back to racing some hard enduro stuff. He did really well at TKO last year, and then this year he actually came in. His prologue was not as good, so he had to start a little bit buried back in TKO 1, but he ended up 12th overall in TKO 1, which put him on row 2 for the knockout, or for TKO 2. And then the way that it works is that they put you in rows with either 5 or 6 people, and then in TKO 2, and then they take the top 4 from each row, and then that is who is in the finals. So basically, you start out on a row, you have to beat everybody but 3 people. So you at least have to beat 1 or 2 people. You have to finish top 4 on your row. That qualifies you for the final knockout. Jordan, riding good all day, goes out there and finishes second place in his group and 6th place overall, which is damn impressive. And ended up having some issues with the radiator hose on the bike, so he wasn't able to go out for the final knockout. But I was really excited to see how he would do in that final knockout, especially after putting on such a good showing. But the chatter that we heard about is, hey man, you're the GNCC points leader. Why are you out here? Why are you risking it? There's a GNCC championship on the line. I know hard enduro is fun. I know you like doing it, but GNCC is where the money's at. GNCC is where you're getting paid at. Why are you out here risking that? And Jordan's answer was pretty simple. He was out there having fun. And that's exactly what he was doing. Every time I went by the Magna 1 pits, he definitely had a smile on his face. Got to go to eat dinner with Jordan and Chris Landers and Chase Landers and Jordan's dad and everybody else at the Magna 1 Motorsports team. Went and ate dinner with them Saturday night. Awesome conversations, awesome people. You can't ask for a better group of people. That team is doing wonders. Chris Landers helping the boys out and building up a stellar satellite team, from the presence in the pits to the results on the track and everything in between. Known them for several years, met them at the full gas races, and couldn't ask for a better group of people. But Chris's son, Chris Landers, the owner of Magna 1, his son Chase Landers is very successful this year in the amateur classes at the GNCCs, but he came out, and so Jordan qualified straight to Sunday because of his results last year at TKO, and he was in the straight rhythm race in Nashville. But the way the amateurs have to qualify or try to qualify for Sunday is there's a lot of racing that has to be done, and Chase Landers found that out. So the first thing that you do is a prologue on Friday. So it's a short track. You go out there and you put down the fastest lap time you can, and that will determine your start order for the first race on Saturday. Well, Chase went out and overalled the prologue, fastest rider on the prologue, which was pretty sick. And then he goes into the first race of Saturday, and he overalls that. He was the fastest rider. And then the way that it works is if you race the U.S. Hard Enduro Series, you can qualify straight to TKO 2 on Saturday instead of having to race the prologue and then having to race 1. So even though Chase won the prologue and then he won race 1, he still got buried back in row number 12 to start the second race because all the people that had pre-qualified, they put those riders in first. So he had to battle through a sea of people that started in front of him, even though he had been the fastest one on the track all day, but ended up getting some bottlenecks naturally, as there will be at a hard enduro, and he ended up in 4th place. So maybe if he didn't have that traffic, he could have won that race as well, but he still finished in 4th place. And in that second race on Saturday, they take the top 30, and the top 30 people make it to Sunday, and that made Chase, at 16 years old, the youngest competitor to ever qualify for the Sunday race, which I thought was absolutely awesome. I think that's a huge accomplishment, and it just goes to show how much he's been training and how much they've been working to get to that point. So shout out Chase Landers. Shout out to Jordan Ashburn going out there, having fun, knowing he's got the GNCC points lead. But hey, TKO was on the schedule. We're going to show up. We're going to go do it, and we're going to go do well at it. That's what Jordan Ashburn said. I can only assume because he showed up and he did well at it. So no, that was cool. But yeah, the Beta Boys, it was fun hanging out with them. Tim Apale, APOLLE, I kept meaning to ask him how to pronounce it. I never asked him how to pronounce it. They call him Texas Tim. He is not from Texas. He's from Germany. So I don't know where the Texas Tim came from. I meant to ask that too. Never got an answer. But every time I saw Tim out in the woods, and I put up a YouTube video of everything that I saw. So basically everything that I saw, all the racing that I saw, I recorded it. It is on YouTube now. It took literally all day long to get that to upload. But it is up there now, and you can go watch it on our YouTube channel, which right now we're live on YouTube. So if you're watching, if you're one of the folks that are in here watching us, then I think you know where our YouTube channel is. But if you search On the Pipe Podcast on YouTube, you'll be able to find our channel, and that is where you'll find highlights from the straight rhythm down in Nashville, and then also the full hour and 11 minutes that is the TKO. All the highlights and stuff that I have on there. But back to Texas Tim. Every time I saw him out in the woods, he's revving his bike. He's throwing his hands up in the air, getting the people going, and it was cool to see. He was definitely a crowd favorite, getting everyone hyped up. And literally, every time that I saw him, he was revving at the crowd and pumping them up. So I thought that was cool. He was a cool guy to meet as well. And then David Garza, he was the one from Beta, Mexico. He was over here too. One of the funniest dudes I've ever met. It was cool to just sit and talk with all the boys. Of course, the normal GNCC crew was there. Aston was there, Andy was there, Rob was there, and Kurt, who drives the rig and cooks some delicious food throughout the weekend. So it was cool. It was cool to see the familiar faces and the guys that hung out with throughout the year, and the guys that we see wrenching for Evan Smith and Johnny Johnson and Jay Lipscomb. So it was cool to see them, but then also meet the West Coast folks. Morgan Tanky, she was there. Ended up getting second place at the TKO, but it wrapped up the championship. So she actually became the women's hard enduro champion. So it was cool to see that. Been working with Beta for a year, and I've got 2 championship shirts now and then 2 Beta championship photos, which I think is sick. How does that happen? So congrats to Morgan Tanky for getting that. But and then mentioned earlier, actually Morgan's husband Rich, who is the Beta Extreme Enduro team manager, he was there as well. So it was just it was a really cool experience to be able to hang out, get the full factory experience, especially scrambling around in between races with time going on, like trying to. I don't know if I was in the way or if I was helping out, but I was trying to help out. But no, it was just it was a cool weekend hanging out with everybody. I had a good time. But if you haven't been to TKO, I recommend going there. If you want to ride and you want to destroy your bike and you think you can ride rocks bigger than your bike, then by all means, go try to do it. But if not, if you want to have a good time and be hot, that's an important part of that. Head on down to the TKO. It's so cool. Like I said, it's unlike any other races. How much the crowd gets into it. How many people are here from other places. It's just like a giant melting pot, and everyone is there because they all love dirt bikes. So it was a really cool experience. The Nashville thing, I'm torn. The event, top notch. It was awesome to be able to see that, to watch that. It was a unique experience. They had the whole straight rhythm set up where you'd go all the way down over 2 logs, and then you go over some tractor tires, and then you go over some culverts, and then there's a matrix section, and then another log. You have to turn around in between that log and a Jersey barrier, and you have to go backwards up everything that you already went, and you got to do that as fast as humanly possible. So that was pretty sick to see. Like, the way people were doubling through the matrix, don't know how that's possible, looked insane. Cody Webb wheeling through the matrix, don't know how that's possible, looked insane. And then another familiar GNCC face out there, Rachel Goodish. She went out there and won that thing in downtown Nashville. I'm not sure why she didn't race TKO on Saturday. I was looking for her, but I figured if she was in Nashville, she would be at TKO, but she was not at TKO. But yeah, what a show that everyone put on. And it was cool because all the Nashville people, they were in there doing Nashville things. And so you have a good blend of people that came for the race, that like dirt bikes, that ride dirt bikes, and then all the people that don't know anything about dirt bikes and just get absolutely captivated by what's going on in the streets of Nashville. And it's stuff like that that I think is what really blends the sport together. And I think it's stuff like that is what's going to go a long way in helping grow the sport and bringing new eyeballs to it. You got to think a lot of them people in Nashville aren't people that are going to drive in the middle of nowhere to go watch a dirt bike race. So when we bring a dirt bike race to them, it does wonders on getting that exposure. So that part of it was cool. The part of it that was not cool, Nashville is a gross city. I've always heard such good things about it. I've always wanted to go to Nashville. I was excited about going to Nashville. And then, dude, it was just dirty. It stunk. There's trash everywhere. You got to, like, step over bums. Or I shouldn't say bums. You got to step over homeless people. Everywhere, like even right next to the racetrack, every 10 feet, there was homeless people just sleeping on the sidewalk, which I understand. I don't mean that to sound insensitive. I know that stuff happens. I know that you can't help it. But just like right there on the middle of Broadway, there's people everywhere. It's the most congested place I've ever been. And then they're just set up on the sidewalk, and then a few of them were like cussing everybody out and throwing stuff at people and threw stuff at me. So I wasn't a fan of Nashville. It stinks there. There's trash everywhere. People everywhere, drunk people everywhere, puke everywhere. It smelled like stale alcohol and puke. And I mean, I guess Nashville is a party spot, and I'm sure a lot of people like Nashville, and I'm sure a lot of people are getting mad at me for. I want to know, if you're mad at me about saying Nashville sucks, were you more mad about that or more mad that I spent 12 minutes talking about football? That's the question. But no, I still would like to go back. Maybe I caught it on an off night. Maybe everyone was just rambunctious because there was a dirt bike race in the middle of town. I just looking around, I assume that every person there knows how to sing. That was one thing that I noticed as soon as I got to Nashville, is like the person working at the grocery store. It's like, I bet they can sing really well, and they're here chasing their dreams. Person at Taco Bell. Yes, I had Taco Bell. Can't help it. I was like, I bet they can sing, and they're just working here until they make a bunch of money singing. So that was cool. I'll go back. I'll check it out. But I will say, after my first time there, I wasn't very impressed. But, yeah. Was very impressed by the weekend. Was very impressed by the Magna 1 team. Was very impressed by all the Beta boys. It was cool to be able to get some food, ride some e-bikes, so I didn't have to walk everywhere. Reba, my dog, she was there with me. She got lots of loving, lots of petting, lots of scrap food. So, no, it was cool. I was pumped. I'm glad I made it out there. I think you should make it out there too. There is a lot of people that go out there, and it's easy to spot like who shouldn't be out there, because there was a lot of riders that like they couldn't ride up the gravel road to get to the track. They definitely shouldn't have been on the track. And you can usually tell the people with the recluse as the ones that can't ride. So that's a quick hard enduro tip. If you see a recluse, it's like a sign saying, I don't know how to ride my motorcycle. And sorry for all you recluse riders out there, but that's just the way it seems to be. They were the ones I saw right in front of me, and I wish I had it on camera, but I wasn't filming him. Right in front of me, this dude got so squirrely through a rock section, and then it like kicked his bike sideways, and there was one rock that was sticking up in the middle of the trail, slammed the side of the case into it, completely breaks the whole like clutch cover off. Things dumping oil everywhere. Like all of his oil is now sitting on a rock below him, and he turns around and sees me. He's like, well, that ain't good. And then starts his bike back up and keeps going down the creek. So I feel like there's no way that bike survived the day. But it was just, I don't know, it was insane. It was definitely a different type of race to watch. And there was definitely a lot of rocks. I didn't know that many rocks could be at one place. But I'm going to touch back on some silly season stuff. I think there is going to be a lot of changes that are going on. As I mentioned, some that I mentioned last week, you gotta realize my brain was scrambled. I literally almost got in 2 accidents while recording that show. I don't know if you could hear the horns honk, but in Chicago they honk at you for everything. But yeah, so my mind was a little bit fried. So I was trying to balance of what I can say and what I can't say, also with what could be true and what could not be true. Anyway, long story short, it was one of those ones. I didn't go back and listen to it because I've never listened to a show. I listened to one with the Aussies, but other than that, I haven't listened to any of them because it just makes me cringe, and I think that would be one that would make me cringe because I would say something, then go back on it. Because 2 things. One was like, is that true? And should I say that? So, going to try to clear it up. And like I said, I found out some of that stuff was valid. Some of it wasn't. Some of the stuff was a little bit different. And a lot of it, or some of it, has changed since last week to this week. I mean, we know, once again, this is pure speculation. This is pure stuff that I'm hearing. This is pure what ifs. I could be making it up. What ifs. But also keep in mind that we're in the middle of summer break. And while this is the time that contracts start getting divvied out and start looking for next year's stuff, by no means are all of the contracts done. So anything can happen, anything can change. But what we're hearing now, we'll just work from the top down. Ben Kelly, as we know, re-signed for 13 more years at KTM. He got a long contract. Ben Kelly has found his home. He will likely be like Caleb and retire with the same team, which we can only hope for him because that's cool. That would be the goal. In all seriousness, I think he signed through 2025. I think he signed a 3-year deal, which is really cool. A 3-year deal in an off-road sport. And I think that was after he broke his leg too. So that's guaranteed money for the next 3 years to ride a dirt bike, which couldn't be more pumped for Ben for doing that. As the reigning GNCC champion, currently sitting second place in points in 2021 after missing 3 races. And I'm hoping to see him back. I hope that we can see him return back to racing when we go racing again. Right now, he is just over 13 weeks off of that broken leg. Usually, with something like that, you get cleared at 12 weeks. I have not spoke with Ben. Do not know if he's riding a motorcycle yet, but I think there's probable cause to believe that he probably is. And we never really did get a public update on his shoulder. So I hope that the shoulder doesn't become an issue as well. But given everything that I went through with my broken leg, I think Ben is way stronger than me. I think Ben's way healthier than me. I think Ben's way more driven than me. And I would like to believe that he'll be back to try to defend his title. And, I mean, really, that is on the line, and that still is a very real possibility. So, hopefully, we'll see him back at the Mountaineer when we go racing. I do feel pretty confident from all my sources that I've talked to that Johnny Gerard will end up at the factory KTM team as well. Josh Toth, obviously, that puts him on the bubble. Everything that I've heard is Josh Toth is going to do something a little bit different. So, don't really know can't really give too many details of that, but expect Josh Toth to remain somewhat close with that team, but I don't think that we'll see Toth racing full-time for GNCC or a specific series. So I think there's some options there. I think they're still talking about some stuff. If I had to guess, I would say that we'd see Josh Toth doing something like a Ryan Sipes type of deal next year, which I think would be awesome for Josh Toth. Very talented rider, and I think he's a guy that could go around and do a bunch of different stuff. So if I had to guess, that would just be hearing everything else. I think that would be the route that might be going on there. Let's see. Who else we got? Thad Duvall. So Thad Duvall, I was hearing from not just anybody, like people that would know things, like I mentioned last week, about him going to beta, and it had me excited. And in my mind, it made sense because he's close to where Beta is. Betas are good bikes. They're coming out with the new 450. They're going into motocross. They're going into supercross. I figured now let's get our XC1 guy that's proven he can win, our XC1 guy that's proven he can battle for a championship, and let's put him on a Beta bike. So I was pumped. But now what I'm hearing is that Thad Duvall will likely end up with the Coastal Gas team, which does make a lot of sense. He'll basically be riding the same bike that he's been riding for the last several years. So there won't be a learning curve there. It's a red Husky, which is also a red KTM. So a lot of the team members are in the same buildings, share a lot of the same information, and he'll be on a bike that's very similar. So that does make a lot of sense to see Thad on a Coastal Racing gas next year. So that, like I said, if I had to guess, that would be where I would put him at, is what it seems like, which leaves the other current Coastal Racing XC1 guy, Ricky Russell, to, from what I'm hearing, go back to Ampro Yamaha. So we got Thad allegedly maybe going to Coastal Gas. Ricky Russell will then make the move back to Ampro Yamaha. We saw Ricky with Yamaha in the past have success on that bike. That's where he got his first win at. And it seems like there is going to be a bike opening up, because also one thing that I've heard and one thing that we've been hearing is Stu Baylor. He came on the show and mentioned that he had hired an agent and that he was talking to different people. I have reason to believe, after talking to some of my sources, that it looks like Stu might be going back to a familiar team as well, in the same sense of Ricky Russell. It sounds like Stu, instead of trying to look for a factory deal and a factory team, looks like he's going to put together his own program, which I found out this weekend in the hard enduro scene. That's what a lot of the guys do. So Alfredo Gomez, he rides for his own team. He picks his own bikes. He picks his own sponsors. He gets all that sponsor money together, and everyone pays him individually rather than riding for a team. And then it's up to him to figure it all out from there. Graham Jarvis does the same exact thing. Graham Jarvis has all of his own outside sponsors and then rides for himself. So I think that is the way that Stu is leaning, especially with the marketability that he has and the fan support that he has. I think that he should have good luck gathering sponsors to come together and sponsor him individually versus going on a team. So that is where I would believe that he was going. And that leaves us back at the Yamaha truck. These ones are things that I've heard from multiple people. It seems like Mike Wachowski might end up on a Phoenix Racing Honda machine. And from everything that I've heard per my sources, just speculation, we might see Liam Draper on an Ampro factory Yamaha. So that is what I'm hearing the team will be next year. Ricky Russell and Liam Draper on some Yamahas. And then sorry, that was a weird notification to get. But yeah, so who else we got? Ryder Lafferty. Ryder Lafferty is a guy that I think is turning a lot of heads this year. I think he is a guy that is really hitting his stride and figuring it all out. He is the guy leading the National Enduro points right now. He's won an XC2 race, and he's doing good in the XC2 points this year. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up, whether he stays with that Coastal team or maybe gets another factory ride. I don't know. That'll be one to keep an eye on. And I think we talked about last week Grant Baylor. From everything I'm hearing, it will be a Kawasaki that he will be riding for next year. I think the other Cowie boys are staying where they are at, Josh Strang and Lyndon Snodgrass. And, the Magna 1 team, they are going to be the same as well. Jordan Ashburn, Chase Landers, and then old Brody Johansson, who is battling for an XC3 championship right now, will be on an XC2 bike, and I won't be surprised if he is battling for an XC2 championship next year as well on that Magna 1 Husqvarna. Beta, everyone's coming back. Evan and Johnny both going to be back next year. The team is going to be back next year, which I think is pretty cool. Instead of switching around and swapping everything up, I think that they are going to keep the family together going into next year. I'm trying to think if there's any big ones I'm missing. Trevor Bollinger, still don't know where he's at, up in the air. I actually heard that he re-signed with Rockstar Husky. He's had some success there and obviously been on that bike for 2 or 3 years now in that XC1 class. I think 3 years. So Craig DeLong will stay with the Rockstar Husky team. I think he already signed his contract for that. But other than that, I don't think that I'm missing any. How cool would it be, just throwing this out there, Zach Osborne just signed an ambassador deal with Husky. Zach Osborne raced a GNCC this year. How cool would it be if he came back and raced the whole season for Rockstar Husky? Obviously has ties with Rockstar Husky. Obviously has a ambassador deal with Husky. How cool would that be to see Zach Osborne race the full season? I haven't heard that. I'm not saying it'll happen, but it's something I just thought about. Like, it could make sense. Maybe if Zach felt like racing full-time again, because you pretty much would have to train full-time to be competitive in that XC1 class. So, I don't know, just a random thought. I think that'd be pretty neat to watch. But there's still a lot of XC2 guys that we don't know about. A lot of XC2 contenders that we don't know about. Cody Barnes, one of them. I don't know where he's going. Might be staying at Honda. I haven't heard a lot of the XC2 guys other than the ones that we already mentioned. But silly season is well underway. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. There's a lot of stuff that can go down, and looking forward to it. And so keep your ears and your eyes open, and all that stuff will be coming out before. Well, I say that. Normally they don't release that stuff until super late. I don't know why everything's such a secret. I don't know why everyone waits for something. Even when contracts are done, they wait like 2 months to announce it. I don't understand it. But anyway, I went live on Twitch this morning to edit the TKO video. The TKO video is now live on YouTube. You can check it out. But the Twitch stream is definitely growing. There's more and more people coming in there. I invite you to come in there. We usually do a pre-show show on Twitch. So, like I said, this morning it was editing TKO footage. One of the last ones I edited the footage from the Oz Ranch ride day. Sometimes when they're playing some video games, but might even start broadcasting the show in there as well. So check us out on Twitch. My dog is currently checking me out right now. But it's Twitch on the Pipe Gaming. You can search for us on there and find it. And then we will be going live on show days. And then, like I said, we were live this morning editing that video. So you can check out our YouTube videos, youtube.com/onthepipepodcast. Got a video up from Nashville from the downtown straight rhythm. And then we also got the TKO video that is live now. Other than that, follow us on the socials. Check out betausa.com. Check out financialadvisorsdenvernc.com. Check out armoredgraphics.com. Our good buddies over there still helping us out with the graphics kit and can help you out with your graphics kit and have the best looking bike on the market, especially if you got an Armored Graphics kit for a beta. You know what I mean? Double dipping. Anyway, that being said, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate you supporting OTP. Looking forward to letting you guys know exactly what I've been up to.